welcome. So unless you've been living under a rock, you've seen Ariana Grande a lot in the news lately because of the release of Wicked, which I am so excited to see. And I've been doing a ton of research for all these really heavy political videos that I am going to release. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something fun today, which I guess still kind of pertains to the news, but it's just a little bit more lighthearted. So today we are going to be looking at the natal chart of Ariana Grande. I love Ariana Grande's music. I'm a little too old to have really witnessed her Disney come up, but she has an incredible voice. I love her music. I don't really know much about her personal life. It seems like my audience is enjoying the analysis of celebrity natal charts. I think it's very interesting to look at the chart, and celebrities' lives are very well documented. So we can kind of see not only these personality traits that they have, but the events that have unfolded over their life and the transits that have coincided with those. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today than I have done in the prior videos, which is that, yes, I am going to do an analysis of the natal chart. However, for the upcoming transits, I'm going to look at the transit and then I'm going to pull some tarot cards because I realized that I haven't done any sort of tarot content on here. And that is something that I offer and that I love to do in my one-on-one sessions. And I love Ariana Grande. I mean, I have no idea who she is as a person, but I love her music so much. She's just so incredibly talented. So anyway, let's get into it. I have my other glasses here. These ones have a giant scratch on them, but I like how these ones look better. So we're going to put the natal chart right here. At this point, you probably know the drill. First thing we're going to look at, the ascendant-descendant line. Where's the sun? The sun is below the descendant, which means the sun had set right before she was born. Before I jump into the benefics and the malefics, let's take a look at that ascendant. Oh my God. Sometimes when I look at people's natal charts like this, especially celebrities who are just, she's a very prominent artist of this generation. I look at it and I'm just like, oh my God. The ascendant, 20 degrees Capricorn, conjunct Uranus and Neptune. Wow. Uranus and Neptune are both generational placements. So typically, unless they are aspecting something or they have a very prominent placement in the chart, I don't always consider their placement in terms of somebody's personality or their life trajectory. But she has Uranus and Neptune exactly conjunct to the same degree as her ascendant. And I think I have said this before in a podcast, but the ascendant and the descendant are the fastest moving things on this wheel. So had she been born only a few minutes later, this would not be at an exact conjunction. So ascendant in Capricorn, very practical, very capable of achieving long-term goals. Capricorn is a very calculated sign, and it is always going to have a plan to get from point A to point B. If you think about the symbology of Capricorn is a sea goat. When you think of a goat, I'm just going to put a picture here. A goat can strategically figure out how to climb up a very steep slope all the way to the top of the mountain. So we are off to a very powerful start. So the involvement of Uranus here, this is definitely an indicator, I would say, specifically in her chart, having to do with fame early on in life. Uranus is the planet of shocks and surprises. It's kind of like the mystery bag. I feel like a lot of people who have prominent Uranus placements, usually when it's conjunct the ascendant or maybe even the sun, depending on the other placements in the chart, some of these people do end up having very lucky circumstances in their life, regardless of the fact that, she's talented and she had privilege and access to these things early on in life. There are a lot of people who have those things who do not rise to that level of fame. So not only does she have Uranus there, but she also has Neptune. Now, I've talked about Neptune before on this podcast. Neptune is very dreamy. It's very idealistic. When it is conjunct the ascendant, the identity, not only does it give her this ethereal sort of vibe, but also Capricorn, a sign that has very lofty goals. Neptune just adds an exponent to those lofty goals. It is very idealistic. It is very dreamy. And it gives her this artistic edge. Neptune is often associated with the arts. Not only that, but if you look at the bottom of the chart, that long blue line with the triangle right there, Neptune, Uranus, and the ascendant are exactly trine Venus in Taurus. Venus, the planet of beauty, luxury, joy, romance. And also in her chart, the major benefic, exactly trine to the ascendant, Neptune, and Uranus. And Venus in this chart is in one of its signs of rulership, Taurus. So we are off to a great start here. Not only that, but Venus is in the 5th house of creativity. And one more thing that I want to point out here with this configuration is that she has both of those placements, or rather all 4 of those placements, sextile Black Moon Lilith in Pisces. Black Moon Lilith has to do with our rebellious spirit, but also our femininity. And all of these placements are making very beneficial angles to each other. So she has Venus, the main benefic in her chart, in the sign of its rulership, in the 5th house of creativity, making positive angles to her identity, to her possibilities for fame, to this kind of like artistic dreaminess, as well as making a minor positive angle to the placement of femininity and rebellion or expression. So that's the first thing that really stands out to me about this chart. Let's take a look at where the malefic is. So in a night chart, the main malefic is Saturn. Saturn is at 0 degrees Pisces. Pisces is not the best place for Saturn, but it's also not the worst. She has this in her 3rd house of communication. So I'd say that maybe for her early on in life, she had difficulty really expressing herself and really having difficulty standing up for herself. 0 degrees is a critical degree, and I kind of see this mostly playing out for her prior to her Saturn return. Saturn is currently in Pisces, so Ariana Grande right now is experiencing her Saturn return. You'll notice that Saturn is also opposite Mars, and Mars is in Virgo. So Mars in Virgo is very calculated, very regimented, always has a list going, knows exactly what needs to get done. Saturn opposite Mars in this configuration, for me, just looking at kind of the placement of Saturn, this is a hallmark of somebody who might have a tendency to overwork themselves. Or if we're looking at Saturn as the father, someone who perhaps early on in life had a father who was very controlling and who may have made a lot of decisions for her. I don't know much about Ariana Grande's childhood other than that she was a childhood star. So I wouldn't be surprised if, maybe her father had a lot to do with the business decisions that were made during her childhood career. And maybe she would have felt restricted by that. Also, another thing that I want to point out is that Saturn is her ruling planet. So the fact that it is at 0 degrees Pisces is very prominent. Mars in the 9th house is also indicative of somebody who just loves to continue learning new things, especially because Mars is in Virgo. Virgo is very much the straight A student archetype. Okay, so let's look at this moon placement. Moon, 6 degrees Libra. The moon is also conjunct Jupiter, and both of these placements are in the 10th house of career. So moon in Libra is a very ethereal, lovey-dovey, and just this is somebody who really appreciates beauty in life. Another thing about Moon in Libra is because they just want everything to be equal and balanced and beautiful in life, is that they hate confrontation. So not only are they willing to make concessions in life just to avoid conflict and, so that other people will be happy, sometimes Moon in Libra tends to bend over backwards in order to avoid that conflict. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is in a very people-pleasy kind of way, but they really hate conflict. And this is expanded by Jupiter's presence there. And this is a quality that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about people in Hollywood, is that a lot of these artists, they have to be on the chopping block and be willing to deal with that so that they can get where they want to in their career. A lot of people who stand up for themselves, whether it's in the music industry or, especially women actors, they have to make concessions in some area if they want to reach the height of their career. So both of these placements, the moon and Jupiter, are in the 10th house, the 10th house of career. So the moon in the 10th house is a favorable placement for fame, and Jupiter in the 10th house especially a very favorable placement for fame, especially both of these being in an air sign. Air is the element that is associated with communication. She sings for a living. That is a form of communicating. It's a very Libra aesthetic form of communication. So this really makes sense for her. Now, if you look at where the moon and Jupiter are, Jupiter especially, look at that big red line that it's making to the sun in Cancer in the 7th house. The moon and Jupiter are making a square to the sun. So Jupiter square sun is not a bad placement to have. This angle gives a person a lot of edge when it comes to achieving their goals in life. It can sometimes make a person a bit egotistical, a bit of a diva, if you will. I feel like I've seen headlines talking about that, about Ariana Grande, but also which pop diva have you not read an article like that about? So who knows? Now, moon square sun, there's a bit of a battle between the sun, the ego, and the moon, the emotional needs. So this could be a very challenging thing, especially growing up, especially early on in life. Not having your emotional needs met because the ego takes center stage. And when I say the ego, I don't mean, when people think of egotistical or diva behavior. I mean the emotional needs taking a back seat to how we shine in the world, the way that the sun does. Okay, now we're going to move on to the transits. So I don't know when Ariana Grande, hold on, let me just Google it. When was Ariana Grande on that, I don't even know, kids show? What was it called? She rose to prominence for her. Okay, here we go. Nickelodeon television series Victorious. Is that the one? I don't know. I've just literally seen clips of it. It was 2010. So since 2008, my guess would be that prior to being on that show, Ariana Grande was probably like auditioning and doing a bunch of different things and, you know, had sort of started her career up around 2008 when Pluto would have entered her first house in Capricorn, and only a couple years later would she have landed that role. It looks like in 2010, Pluto and the North Node were conjunct in her first house. The North Node being where we're going, what's to come, our fate, our destiny in life. So those transits kind of track. And then shortly after that, she would have been going through her nodal return. I can't remember when she's first started releasing. We're just going to do this research here live together. It was the album that she came out with where she's like on the chair. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, that album came out in 2014. Still Pluto transiting through her first house. And then 2016 was when she released Dangerous Woman. Now, if we look at the chart in 2016, this is when Pluto would have been 5 degrees applying to her ascendant. And that was the start of this huge major transit of Pluto transiting over her natal Neptune, Uranus, and ascendant. Needless to say, during that time, when Pluto was applying to her ascendant and all of these other placements, as well as being directly conjunct, she reached incredible heights in her career. Now, the reason I bring that up is because Pluto is going to be exiting her first house. It has separated 9 degrees from her ascendant, so I'd say that that exact conjunction has already passed. However, it is still in a same sign conjunction as her ascendant. Pluto is going to ingress into Aquarius, and it is not going to be in Capricorn for the rest of her life, for the rest of anyone's life. And what this means for her is that it is moving into her second house. Now, in my video about Hassan Piker, I talked about, he also had a Capricorn ascendant. His was actually at 29 degrees. But for Ariana Grande specifically, this transit is going to be different for a lot of reasons. Pluto has separated from her ascendant. It is entering her second house. I think definitely the ways that she makes money is going to change a lot. This is going to be opposite her natal Chiron. This is applying to making a quincunx angle to Mars in her 9th house. So I wouldn't be surprised if she took some time off from touring, since the 9th house does have to do with foreign travel and Mars has to do with action and our general activity in life. So making a harsh angle to Mars would probably prompt her to kind of pump the brakes on travel, on being so active. Maybe during this time, she'll even consider taking some time off. That quincunx angle to Mars is not going to be active this entire time during the Pluto transit to her second house, so that could very well be a temporary thing. Perhaps it's possible that she could decide to do a residency instead. Either way, the way that she's going to be making money and the way that she's going to be moving around the world is going to change and transform. Me personally, I do not like this Uranus transit to her 6th house being in a same sign conjunction as her South Node, especially after Jupiter is going to be exiting her 6th house. This transit can be indicative of some sort of health issues. She had the support of Jupiter in the 6th house over around the past year or so, but Jupiter will be ingressing into Cancer after that, into her 7th house, possibly meaning that her one-on-one relationships, she's going to have to lean on those more during that time. South Node in the 6th house is a tricky placement, especially when things like Uranus, the planet of shocks and surprises, is going to be transiting that area of the chart. The South Node has to do with things that are being released, and the 6th house has to do with our health. The 12th or the 6th house is often the house that is aspected during health crises. So I don't want to predict too much there. After all, I am not a doctor. I always tell my clients that if I see something like that in a chart, I will point it out, but I'm not going to diagnose you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Go to a doctor. One thing that is true for Ariana Grande and anyone else who has their Saturn in Pisces, guys, I'm so sorry, but you're going to be in your Saturn return for another roughly year and a half. Little less than that. I felt really bad for the people who had their Saturn in Capricorn because they were experiencing their Saturn return at the same time that Pluto was transiting through Capricorn. But she's going through her Saturn return just after Pluto was transiting over her ascendant, over that natal Uranus, over that natal Neptune. That's a lot. So I literally just remembered that I said I was going to pull some tarot cards. So before I get into more predictions, let's get into that. I want to see what this transformation of Ariana Grande's finances, of what this transformation in terms of traveling, activity, what this all has to do with. What's that going to look like? That quincunx of Pluto to Mars doesn't happen to an exact degree for a little while. So let's just pull for Pluto's transit through her 2nd house and what that means for Ariana Grande. Okay, so the first card that I pulled You know what? I'm just going to put the graphic right here. The first card that I pulled is the Queen of Pentacles reversed. So this shows to me there is some sort of mismanagement of finances or resources. But also the earth element represented by the pentacles has to do with self-care, taking care of ourselves. So I think I had mentioned earlier, her natal Mars is opposite Saturn, meaning that she is probably a workaholic, overworking yourself. And that is also kind of what this card represents, is that there is a deficit in taking care of the physical self. That is also kind of echoed by the second card, which is the World reversed. Not really getting what you want out of a situation. It's not all bad, but just not really feeling fulfilled, even though perhaps there is a lot of material wealth and abundance around you. So these two cards, very much indicative of the second house. The second house is not only our financial resources, but it's also what we value in life. So I'm getting the sense that there is a shift in values that's going to be happening because it would appear that her cup, her internal emotional well-being, is not exactly full right now in terms of the values that she's aligned with right now. Seven of Wands. This card is very much related to Mars. You can see that there is somebody who is very defensive, kind of feeling under attack, needing to defend their resources. I mean, I wonder if there is somebody on her team right now who is like mismanaging financial funds of some sort. 10 of Cups reversed. Again, this is not a bad card. When it's upright, it generally means harmony, satisfaction. This reading is kind of making me feel like there is somebody on her team who is either overworking her and she is just like not feeling fulfilled by this, or is just like diametrically opposed to like really like what she wants in life right now. And maybe once this transit happens, she will be forced to kind of confront that. I'm just getting the overall feeling that she's just feeling kind of like insecure with how that's being managed right now. And it's not in alignment with her values. The next card we have is the Moon. Now, the Moon in tarot represents illusion, confusion, and uncovering hidden truths. And Pluto, transiting through this area of the second house, is notorious for revealing things. So there might be something hidden that is about to be revealed. And would you look at that? The next card is the Sun. So obviously the Sun shines light in dark places. Also, given that these cards are right next to each other, I wouldn't be surprised if this happened during a full moon. But the Sun reveals these things. The fact that the Sun is upright is positive for her. This suggests clarity, renewal, and the possibility for success after turmoil. After that, we do still have the Two of Pentacles reversed. Pentacles, again, pentacles are coins. They have to do with finances. And if you look at the imagery on this card, it's a man juggling these pentacles, juggling the finances, really trying to get them like sorted out. So after this moment of clarity, there is going to be a need to sort of get things in order. And this might be a little bit overwhelming. Now, the last card that I pulled is the Nine of Wands. This is a card that points to exhaustion, feeling beaten down. You can see in the card that the man has a bandage over his head and is looking a little bit paranoid after this difficult battle. And I had said this in the chart analysis, but this is a card that often points to burnout. Given the other cards that were in this reading, I mean, it kind of makes sense that this would happen in that arc. Let me just pull a few more cards. I want to know like the eventual outcome of this. I wonder if she's going to like fire someone on her team because she has the Death card, which by the way, the Death card does not mean you're going to die. Let's get one thing straight. But then there's also the Eight of Cups, which means she's walking away from something. So maybe, I mean, like I said with my previous prediction, this might have to do with her stepping away from touring for a while, stepping away from performing for a while altogether. I mean, I hope not, but like Ariana Grande, do whatever you need to do to be okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Nine of Cups reversed. You have everything you need, but you're still not satisfied. Temperance reversed. This is just imbalance, specifically like emotional and practical disconnection. And then Five of Cups, Ariana Grande, don't be sad. This honestly, doing this tarot reading, I'm like, what is going on in her life? Honestly, I feel like she's overworked. She needs some time off. Someone on her team is screwing up. That makes me also want to look at the transits that are happening to her moon. Oh, okay. South Node is currently conjunct the moon, square her natal sun. Like I said, she has natal sun square moon, and the moon is in the 10th house, and the South Node is currently traveling through the 10th house. So yeah, I mean, I would say that this is definitely indicative of burnout. There were probably a lot of opportunities that she had over the past year that she didn't want to turn down, maybe because of people on her team. She didn't want to let them down. And I'm not just talking about Wicked. I mean, I have no idea what else is going on in her career. I just saw the ads for Wicked and I got really excited. But I think that once that South Node exits her 10th house, that is going to be a little bit of a time of reckoning for her. And that's going to happen early January 2025. Ariana Grande, don't be sad. I don't know. I mean, honestly, if she survived that Pluto transit to the ascendant, she's going to be okay. Ariana Grande is going to be okay. She's still going through her Saturn return up until 2026. The North Node is going to be in a same sign conjunction as transiting Saturn as well as her natal Saturn in 2025. So she does have these difficult transits coming up. I'm not going to lie about that. Ariana Grande, take care of yourself, please. We love you. We love your music. You're incredible. If you need to take time off for self-care over the next few years, please do. I want that new album, but I'm also like, okay, like do what you need to do to like get through life so that we can eventually get that amazing album. Okay, guys, I think that is where I'm going to call it for today. If you would like a personal reading from me where I go through your natal chart and pull some tarot cards for you for specific transits, there is a link down below where you can book. Happy Saturn direct to all my Capricorn and Aquarius risings out there, and I will see you next time.